Episode 1. Before You Were Born. Night had fallen softly over Arutem, but no one in the Hall of Kings mistook that softness for peace. The fire bowls burned low and blue. Their light climbed the carved pillars in slow, trembling bands, catching on old river symbols, sun discs, and the sacred marks of Lapi and Ru. Beyond the open arches, the dark breadth of Nam Lapi moved under the moon like a black road of memory. At the foot of the throne dais sat the two sons of King Eren. Atum, the elder, held himself as though even stillness were a discipline. His hands rested on his knees, but tension lived in his shoulders and jaw. Aru, younger by 2 years, watched the room the way other boys watch storms, quietly, as though he expected hidden patterns to reveal themselves if he looked long enough. Their father did not sit. King Eren stood before them in a plain dark robe instead of war armor, but there was nothing soft in him. Time had cut him into hard lines. Scars crossed one side of his face and vanished into the edge of his beard. When the firelight shifted, it touched old damage in one of his hands, blackened long ago by something no mortal forge had made. Their mother was not there. She had long since returned to Guoga, back across distances no lu or vessel could cross and no prayer could shorten. Yet absence did not mean emptiness. At times, when the shepherds stirred beneath their skin, Atum and Aru felt her nearness more sharply than the presence of anyone in the room. A flicker of pale script behind the eyes, a warmth beneath the ribs, a voice remembered more by blood than by ear. For a long while, no one spoke. Then Eren turned toward the river beyond the arches and said, "There are truths a prince may be protected from in childhood." He looked back at them. "But not forever," Atum straightened. Aru did not move at all. Eren's voice lowered. "The songs will tell you that the old war ended. The priests will tell the people that the enemy was broken and driven beyond the world. The frightened will tell themselves that what still stirs in the dark are only remnants, strays, and stories given teeth." He paused. "They are wrong." The fire seemed to draw inward. Eren stepped down from the dais and stopped before his sons. "Before either of you were born," he said. The sky over Igurupata did not crack with thunder. His gaze shifted past them, as though he were looking through years instead of walls. It screamed. Across the black waters of the great river Nam Lapi, thousands of fishing fires trembled and died as a wound of white fire tore open the heavens. Old women in the reed shrines dropped their prayer bowls. Watchmen on the eastern towers froze with swords half drawn. Children woke crying before their mothers heard the sound itself, because terror moved faster than hearing that night. Then the river rose, not in waves, not like floodwater. The water stood. A wall of dark living water lifted itself from Nam Lapi and hung above the banks as if Lapi himself had risen to witness what was coming. In Arutem, beneath towers carved with sun marks of Ru and older celestial script no child was taught openly anymore, the bronze alarm drums began to roar. Dum, dum, dum. The sound rolled over terraces, millet fields, fishing docks, court walls, shrine roofs, barracks, and sleeping homes. The old signal, invasion, or prophecy. At the center of the city, inside the Hall of Radiance, younger Eren stood before the throne dais in full war regalia. "I was not king then," Eren said to his sons, "only the first sword beneath the crown. But that knight rank mattered less than readiness." In memory, he stood in armor of river blue and dark metal, shoulders wrapped in a war cloak still unstained by that battle's blood. Around him, the Council of Flames spoke over one another in rising panic. It is the old sign. No storm makes that sound. The western stars vanished an hour ago. The shrines report voices in the water. Young Eren did not answer at once. His eyes were fixed beyond the open pillars, beyond the terraces and river stairs, toward the horizon where the world itself seemed to burn. He had seen that light before, not with his own eyes, in forbidden records, in sealed accounts from the old descent. Priests had called it blessing. Generals had called it warning. His father had called it the day mankind stopped belonging only to itself. A younger voice broke through the panic. "The sky gates are opening." The chamber fell silent. The speaker was Scylla, one of the royal interpreters, though nothing about her looked scholarly now. White ash marked her face. Her braids were bound in copper rings. Blood ran from one nostril to the corner of her mouth. She'd come barefoot from the inner shrine. "The light bearers?" an elder asked, barely above a whisper. Sela swallowed. "No." That single word chilled the room more than the screaming sky. Outside, a second tier opened above Nam Lapi. This one was red. The first rift blazed with a clean silver brilliance that turned the clouds to glass. The second spread like a wound in flesh, pulsing crimson, shedding sparks that hissed when they struck the standing river wall. The city moved. Not in disorder. The Lu-Or had not survived the broken centuries by surrendering themselves to panic. Orders flew. Gates sealed. Rivercraft cut free and shifted into defensive lines. Farmers drove livestock inward. Shrine bells rang to rue. Water basins were overturned in the name of Lapi, a plea that flow become strength rather than fear. The messenger guard armed at every main road and lower stair, black-blue armor locking into place. Swords drawn from the armories beneath the city, their edges alive with pale charge. They had trained for war all their lives, but not for the return of the sky. "Atum," Eren said quietly in the present, "training does not make a man ready for his first battle. It only prevents him from dying in the first breath of it." Then he continued. At the riverbank, where the sacred landing stones had not been touched in 9 generations, the first thing came through. It was not a ship, it was a body. A shape of silver metal and white flame crashed from the bright rift and struck the standing river so hard, the whole wall shuddered. For one heartbeat it hung there, embedded in the dark water, steam exploding around it. Then it fell. It struck the landing stones in a shower of black spray and shattered one of the ancestral obelisks in half. Archers on the walls raised bows instantly. "Hold!" young Eren shouted as he strode onto the river terrace with 30 guards at his back. The thing lay in a crater of broken stone, smoking. It was a pod. Smooth, oval, marked with symbols older than the Lu-Or kingdoms. Symbols copied into shrine carvings, whispered over children, preserved in teachings too old to be fully understood. The marks of Guoga. The stories were true. The pod split open with a hiss. Inside was not a god. It was a dying woman. She was tall, pale gold-skinned, luminous veins, flickering beneath translucent flesh as though starlight moved in her blood. Her armor had been burned open across the chest. Her wound was deep enough to kill anything born of Earth. When her eyes opened, they were not human. They were rings of shifting light. The guards stepped back. Sela dropped to her knees. One of the elders began to weep prayers to Ru. The woman dragged herself half out of the pod and looked directly at Eren. "When she looked at me," Eren said, still speaking to his sons while seeing it all again, "it was as though she had crossed worlds for a single answer." Her voice came in 2 layers, one metallic as wind through bronze, the other fragile with blood. "Which age of Earth?" No one answered. Young Eren stepped forward. "This is the land of Iguru-Pata," he said. "You stand among the Lu-Or, children of the river and the presence of light." The woman stared at him. Something like grief crossed her face. "So you survived," she whispered. Then the red sky tore wider. A shape emerged within it, so enormous that at first people mistook it for a second moon. It descended slowly, blotting out stars. Not silver, black, a warcraft. Its surface moved like living armor, plated in overlapping scales of obsidian alloy. Red fire bled from its seams. As it lowered over the river, fish began leaping from the water in madness. Birds dropped dead in the air. The wall of Nam Lapi trembled, and beneath the craft in columns of red light came soldiers, hundreds. Their bodies were long and angular, wrapped in bone-like combat shells, faces hidden behind masks slit with vertical crimson lines. Each carried a weapon that looked grown rather than forged, black tissue metal still twitching, as if alive. The dying woman turned with sudden desperation. "They found me!" Young Eren's warriors raised shields. Across the far bank, the black-armored soldiers landed without sound. Then, in perfect unison, they knelt and pressed their weapons into the mud. Not surrender, preparation. The largest of them rose, its mask unfolded like steel petals, revealing a face that might once have resembled a man before war had carved cruelty into permanence. When it spoke, the voice crossed the river like judgment. "Children of the fallen world," it said, "we have returned to claim what was abandoned." In the present, Atum's hands had tightened into fists. Aru had gone very still. Eren did not look at them yet. He was still on those stones in memory. "I did not know his name when I first heard him," he said. Only that courage became heavier in his presence. On the terrace of the past, young Eren stepped to the edge of the landing stone, sword in hand, river wind pulling at his cloak. "This river is sacred," he shouted back. "This land is under the protection of the Lu'or. You will not cross." The creature's ruined face almost smiled. "Protection?" Its gaze shifted to the fallen woman from Guoga. "So the shepherds reached you first, as always." The silver woman tried to rise and failed. Pale light bled over the stone. Eren glanced at her, then back at the invader. "Name yourself." The figure laid one clawed hand across its chest. "I am Vorin Kale, first blade of the Dominion of Ash. I stood upon this planet when your kind still feared fire. I watched your empires drown. I watched your bones wash into the roots of your forests. And now I have come to finish what the flood began." At that, something changed, not only in the sky, inside the Lu'or. Every priest on the terrace stiffened. Shrine bells rang across the capital without human touch. The markings carved into the landing stones flared blue. Beneath Eren's feet, an ancient seal buried under silt and memory woke with a low hum. The wounded woman from Guoga seized his wrist with startling strength. "Listen to me," she gasped. "The old defense is still here. Your ancestors hid it. The messengers were never only a people." A blast of red energy struck the pod and blew it apart. Guards were hurled backward. Stone exploded. The woman rolled across the terrace in silver fire. Young Eren roared and raised his sword. Shields, too late. The first wave crossed the river, not by bridge, not by boat, but by tearing open short-lived fractures in the air and stepping through them. They appeared on Lu'or ground, in bursts of crimson distortion, weapons already firing. Blue barriers flashed. Men burned. The river terrace became war. One messenger guard lost half his face and still drove his blade into an invader's throat. Archers on the upper walls loosed sun-charged bolts that burst white against black armor. Civilians ran for the evacuation tunnels below the city. Alarm drums became war drums. Young Eren struck the first enemy head-on. His sword bit, jolted, then punched through the creature's chest shell at the seam. He ripped the blade free and turned, shouting commands in the battle tongue. "Close the lower stairs. Protect the shrine bearers. No retreat from the stones." More crimson tears opened. More black soldiers poured through. "This," Eren said in the quiet hall, his voice low and hard, "was how the war came back to us." He looked finally at his sons. Not with warning, not with negotiation. His gaze darkened. With hunger. Outside, beyond the arches, Nam Lapi moved under the moon. Inside, neither boy spoke. The silence that followed was not ignorance now, it was inheritance. Eren turned from them and looked once more toward the river. "And before dawn," he said, "I learned that what came through the silver fire would change my life more than what came through the red." He let the words settle. Then he added, softer and more dangerous than before, "And I learned something else. The enemy had not crossed the stars for conquest alone. They had come for something buried beneath our river, and they were willing to drown the world again to take it." The fireballs hissed. Atum swallowed once but said nothing. Aru's eyes remained fixed on his father. Beyond the palace, the great river flowed in darkness, carrying moonlight on its back like a blade. And in the Hall of Kings, under the witness of Ru and the memory of Lapi, the sons of Eren understood that the peace they had been born into was not peace at all. It was only the pause after a wound.